Do you ever see something and think, I think something bigger is going on here than what is immediately apparent? Well, in the summer of 2022, I noticed a few pictures that Jinger posted on her Instagram, and I had that feeling of there's more going on here than meets the eye. But I just tucked it away. And this past week, when Ginger's interview with People magazine went public, my mind went back to those photos. Growing up in a cult complicates everything. The truth matters. The truth sets us free. You're listening to Out of the Shadows with Mary Murphy. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today is January 25th, 2023. Happy New Year. Hope you all are having a great year so far, and a gentle one as well. The big news this month is Ginger's book, Becoming Free Indeed, is about to arrive in everyone's hands. And if you haven't purchased it yet, I hope you will go and buy it and support her and see what she has to say. So this is going to be part one of talking about Ginger's book. There's a lot to talk about. This episode is going to center on the interactions leading up to publication of the book. I'm going to share some of my comments from an interview I had with the U.S. Sun back in October 2022 about Ginger's book. And we're going to look at the family members who have said something publicly and talk about Jim Bob and Michelle and what I think that they're thinking at this time. And then we'll go back to that picture and those pictures that I mentioned. So here we go. So we're going to start with the U.S. Sun article from October 31st, 2022. I'm going to read it to you. The title is Ginger's Risk. Jinger Duggar risks parents Jim Bob and Michelle shunning her after she exposes family secrets in tell-all book. Jinger, 28, is publishing a memoir entitled Becoming Free Indeed after distancing herself from her strict family. Mary Murphy, a former Duggar family friend, revealed parents Jim Bob and Michelle's potential reaction to the book. In an exclusive interview with the U.S. Sun, former Duggar family friend Mary Murphy reveals the potential fallout Jinger could face from her loved ones. Mary, who hosts the podcast Out of the Shadows with Mary Murphy, thanks for listening, grew up with the Duggar family and considered Jim Bob and Michelle's daughters to be her sisters. She lost touch with the family when she was shunned and excommunicated from their church after questioning the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP, religion. Mary believes the same could happen to Jinger with the release of her book. She told the U.S. Sun, quote, Jim Bob and Michelle's reaction to the book will depend on the contents of the book, as well as the approach. Is the memoir a tell-all? Will Jinger call Michelle and Jim Bob out? If so, the likelihood of Jim Bob shutting Jinger out and cutting her off raises. However, if Ginger's book does not hurt the family image or the facade of perfection, then I don't expect Jim Bob to cut her off. I am eager to read the book. I imagine Jinger is a few years into this journey. In another 10 years, there will be another book because it is a long journey. End quote. Mary said she is so proud of and happy for Jinger for sharing her story. She added, quote, stepping forward to tell your own story represents a vital part of taking your agency back and finding your voice. I'm not shocked at all that she is breaking free. I hope all of them will come to that point of seeing the truth and stepping out into freedom. I'm not surprised. I'm super happy for her as she continues to move forward and heal. End quote. Mary hopes Jinger sharing her story will encourage her siblings to break free from the strict religion as well. She said, everyone's journey is going to be different. With each one that does break free, the pressure on the others becomes even more intense. I do think it's probable it's just going to take some time. The mom of two moved from her hometown of Arkansas to Texas when she married her husband, Jinger Vuolo, in 2016. Then in 2019, the two moved to Los Angeles, California, where Jeremy is currently a pastor at Grace Community Church. Now, I want to take just a moment here to say there is a lot to say about the connection with Grace Community Church and John MacArthur. However, this moment in talking about Ginger's book is not the moment that I'm going to talk about that. But I am acknowledging it and will come back to it at a later date. So let's continue with the article. Ginger began distancing herself from the family with her attire as she broke the modest dress code by wearing jeans, shorts, short dresses, and skirts, and other clothing deemed immodest by the church. Mary said of what could have helped Ginger break free, quote, "The more outside influences and voices help to see what life is like on the outside, even traveling internationally and having that separation to have input from other sources. Starting to see, wait, this is not how life is like in my house. What's going on here? Starting to ask those questions." The official break seemed to come when Ginger's oldest brother, Josh, was arrested on 2 counts of child pornography in April 2021. He was later found guilty and sentenced to 151 months in federal prison, where he is today at Seagoville in Texas. While family members, including Dad Jim Bob, attended the trial in support of Josh, Ginger and Jeremy spoke out against the fallen family member. Mary said she was proud of their statement that read, quote, "We are saddened for the victims of horrific child abuse. We are also saddened for Josh's family, his wife, and precious children. We are saddened for the dishonor this has brought upon Christ's name. Josh claims to be a Christian. When a professing follower of Jesus is exposed as a hypocrite, the response of many will be to challenge the integrity of Jesus himself." The couple added, "We are thankful to God for exposing Josh's actions and to a legal system committed to protecting the innocent and punishing the guilty in this case. We are grateful for justice. We are praying for further justice, vindication, protection, and healing for all those who have been wronged." End quote. Ginger's book, Becoming Free Indeed, My Story of Disentangling Faith from Fear, will be released on January 31st. The description for the book reads, Ginger shares how in her early 20s, a new family member, a brother-in-law who didn't grow up in the same tight-knit conservative circle as Ginger, caused her to examine her beliefs. He was committed to the Bible, but he didn't believe many of the things Ginger had always assumed were true. His influence, along with the help of a pastor named Jinger Duggar Vuolo, caused Ginger to see that her life was built on rules, not God's Word. Ginger committed to studying the Bible, truly understanding it for the first time. What resulted was an earth-shaking realization. Much of what she'd always believed about God, obedience to His Word, and personal holiness wasn't in line with what the Bible teaches. Now, with a renewed faith of personal conviction, Becoming Free Indeed shares what it was like living under the tenets of Bill Gothard, the biblical truth that changed her perspective, and how she disentangled her faith with her belief in Jesus intact. End quote. Mary is a second-generation survivor of IBLP, which she considers to be a cult. On her podcast, Out of the Shadows with Mary Murphy, she shares survivor stories of those once in the alleged cult. She said of her own survivor story, "I was a stay-at-home daughter until my mid-20s. I began to see in my own family the hypocrisy between the facade we put into the world and what went on at home. As I began to see that in my own mind and heart and life, I started pushing back against that. My parents saw they were going to lose control of me. That was very important for them to maintain control of me in order to protect their reputation and facade. I was shunned and excommunicated from the cult. That's when I lost touch with the Duggar girls specifically." And again, that was an article by the U.S. Sun on October 31st, 2022. And I want to share it because I wanted you to hear the comments that I made about Ginger's book and about what I see could happen, how Jim Bob and Michelle could respond. And because I want you to see what I said and what I think now as we move forward. So next, I'm going to read an article published by In Touch. In Touch is I'm not a big fan of In Touch. However, this has some quotes that I want to talk about, so we're going to read it. So the title is Duggars React. Find out what Jinger Duggar's family members have said about her new book. This is dated January 19th, 2023. Counting on family, Jinger Duggar's family members have shown support for the former reality star after she announced her upcoming book, Becoming Free Indeed. According to the book's description, Jinger, 29, will recount how she began to question the harmful ideology of her youth and learned to embrace true freedom in Christ. End quote. The Counting On alum opened up about writing the new book in a YouTube video titled The Hardest Thing I've Ever Done on November 7th. As she introduced the memoir, Jinger clarified that it is not a tell-all about my family, but instead a deep dive into her spiritual journey. She will explain her decision to abandon the teachings of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP, Minister Bill Gothard, which she called wrong and hurtful. So let's pause there for a moment. When I saw the YouTube video that Jinger put out on November 7th and heard her name Bill Gothard and call the IBLP teachings wrong and hurtful, I knew that this represented a severance, because Jim Bob and Michelle still adhere to all of those beliefs. The last time I looked at their website, which was probably in November of 2022, they still had the family conferences and Alert and these other programs, as well as including the basic seminar, which was the staple foundation of Bill Gothard's quote ministry cult, listed on their website promoting these things. So for Jinger to call out Bill Gothard by name, call out IBLP, say that the teachings were wrong and hurtful, she is taking a stand in direct opposition to what her parents believe, what Jim Bob and Michelle believe. And that decision and going public and saying that puts her on the blacklist. And she's not stopping there. So, back to the article by In Touch. The article goes on. Additionally, Becoming Free Indeed will explore how a yet-to-be-named brother-in-law who didn't grow up in the same tight-knit conservative circle as Jinger played a key role in Jinger's journey to examine her beliefs. Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar raised their 19 kids to follow the IBLP's ministry, which Jinger said she now believes encourages a, quote, life was built on rules, not God's word, end quote. While several of Jinger's family members have shown support for her latest career endeavor, a source exclusively told In Touch that her parents were, quote, bracing themselves ahead of the book's release on January 31st, 2023. Quote, Jim Bob and Michelle aren't thrilled by Jinger's book coming out, but they are hoping for the best, the insider revealed. They're not sure of all the topics she'll cover, but they have prayed about it and hope that it's honest, respectful, and doesn't dredge up too much of their family troubles, end quote. So let's pause here again. So this source is saying what Jim Bob and Michelle feel and think about this. First of all, that they're bracing themselves. That's very interesting, because that obviously says that they are worried. Of course they're worried, because they don't want the facade to drop. They don't want anything further. I mean, they've been humiliated by all of Josh's crimes that have come out, and they don't want anything further to be exposed. And then to say that they hope it's honest, respectful, and doesn't dredge up too much of their family troubles. Well, first of all, honest. They're to say they're hoping it's going to be honest, respectful, and doesn't dredge up too much of their family troubles. They're setting it up to in a way, they're setting this up in a way to be able to call Ginger a liar, whether publicly or, in the press or in private, in their smaller circles, in the cult. They are setting it up right now, ahead of time, to say, we hope it's going to be honest. We hope she's going to be honest. And there's a question, right, in that. We're not sure if she's going to be honest. And that's a very classic cult tactic to question the integrity, question if someone who has left the cult, who is speaking out about the truth of what's happened, about the beliefs, about the brainwashing, about the abuse, to question whether or not they are telling the truth, and basically call them a liar. So that's what this is doing. They're setting up to prepare to call Ginger a liar, in my opinion, because I've seen this over and over. This is very classic cult tactics. So the respectful aspect, that stems back to one of the foundational aspects of beliefs in the cult, taken from the 5th commandment in the Bible, which is honor your father and mother, that it may go well with you and that you may live long on the earth. I might have missed a little bit in there, but that's the general crux of the 5th commandment out of the 10 commandments. And honoring your parents is central to everything in the cult. It's a large part of what provides the power and control and reinforces that in giving that to the father specifically, but also the respect and honor to the parents, including the mother. So for Jim Bob and Michelle, through this source, if it's a source, who knows, it might be Jim Bob himself, for them to say that they hope that Ginger's book is respectful, they are kind of like jabbing her with that, reminder, like, hey, remember this teaching? This is the 5th commandment, and you're to be respectful to us and to honor us and everything for your whole life. And if you don't, it's not going to go well with you. And that's definitely one of the pillars of fear and the foundation of fear that underlies so many other cult teachings and beliefs, the indoctrination that if we as children and even as adult children did not respect and honor our parents, and in large part they wanted us to obey them even into adulthood, even though they wouldn't obey their parents into adulthood. I think that's very interesting to think about. However, they're wanting that reminder to be there that you're to honor us, you're to respect us, and if you're doing this, you're writing this book and publishing this book and saying things that don't honor us and don't respect us, well, it's going to go bad for you. And they're putting that out there before the book comes out. And I feel like I read, maybe In Touch made these, maybe In Touch had some kind of article back in the fall with this same kind of, this statement. I feel like I read it in the fall. Anyway, but it's definitely been out there that Jim Bob and Michelle have been putting this out there, or their source, their quote source, putting it out there, that this is what they're saying. But it's laced cult lingo and beliefs to send Ginger a message, and also to send their other kids a message, in my opinion, right? I'm saying these things from my own opinion. None of the kids have said these things to me. This is from my own experience, watching a lot of friends leave the cult, many friends speak up, from my own experience speaking out, being shunned, being blacklisted, hearing a new story about myself, a new rumor almost every week. Crazy stuff. And then the third thing that this source says, that they hope that Jim Bob and Michelle hope that the book doesn't dredge up too much of their family troubles. Well, I think that's an interesting comment, because Jim Bob and Michelle chose to put their children out on TV for years, to have their children grow up in that fishbowl of reality TV, and against a lot of advice, a lot of caution, knowing the skeletons that were already in the closet and known in Arkansas to at least a small group of people. So I think it seems hypocritical to me. I mean, obviously no one wants their dirty laundry out there and their skeletons out there. However, when you've put out a facade that isn't authentic, then and you do it in the name of God, while the Bible also talks about that the secrets will be made known and the truth will be shouted from the rooftops. The truth will be shouted from the rooftops. It's of course sad. I don't wish dredging up of people's troubles publicly. However, when you claim the name of God and you have skeletons in your closet and you put your family on TV, well, those precious children who are now adults have every right to tell their stories and to have their stories be known and their perspectives of what they experienced, and they deserve that. They deserve to tell their own story after all that was put upon them without any choice of without any say in the matter. To grow up on reality TV in a fishbowl is unfathomably difficult. All right, back to the article by In Touch. While Jinger insisted the book isn't about her family, it's likely that some of the Duggars drama, including Josh Duggar's arrest on child pornography charges and his 2015 molestation scandal, could be discussed. The source added that Jim Bob, 57, and Michelle, 56, quote, fear the worst, end quote, for what the mother of two will discuss in the book. Quote, especially stories about their faith, raising their large family, and especially the dark Josh incident, end quote. The insider continued, the last thing they want is to bring more unwanted, negative attention and scrutiny to their family, end quote. So let's just pause here for a second. Again, so Jim Bob and Michelle are especially concerned about the stories about their faith, and probably any light being shed on how they raise their children. That's, of course, that's, I'm sure all of the kids could have a lot to say. I have a lot to say about how they raised their children. I was Michelle's mother's helper quite often, while her older kids, the older Duggar kids, were tiny. Let's go on. However, Jinger does write about some family members in the book. She credits her sister Jessa Seawald's husband, Ben Seawald, for encouraging her to learn about faith on her own terms. Quote, I noticed his church read the Bible in its entirety and preached scripture that way, end quote. Jinger explained in the book, I feel like now I'm in a much better place. I see God as amazing, end quote. Additionally, the former reality star wrote about how having her life documented on TV since she was 10 made her feel like she lived in a fishbowl. She made the realization while watching The Truman Show in 2016 with her husband, Jinger Vuolo. Quote, you probably already know that The Truman Show is about the ultimate fishbowl. The main character, Truman Burbank, is the star of a reality TV show, but he doesn't know it. Every moment of his life is captured for television, end quote, the mother of two wrote. Quote, many people from the outside world have opinions and expectations about who Truman should be and how he should live. When Truman begins to question his reality and tries to get out of Sea Haven, his escape is blocked at every turn." End quote. She continued, "After we finished the movie, I turned to Jeremy and said, 'That movie is my life.'" End quote. After Ginger announced her new book on Instagram, her older sister Jill Dillard rushed the comment section to show her support. "Proud of you, sis, and following God's leading in your life," she wrote. "Look forward to reading the book." Jill further showed support for her sister in a January 2023 Instagram post shared by Ginger, in which the best-selling author promoted a new interview about becoming free indeed with People magazine. "Proud of you and Jer, as I'm sure you continue to support each other, as you have processed so much, I'm sure, and yet continued to cling to each other and Jesus," Jill wrote in the comments. "Walking the straight and narrow as God leads you is harder than walking completely one way or another. Love you. Praying continued peace and strength for y'all." Jill commended her sister and brother-in-law again in a January 19, 2023 Instagram story video, telling them, "I know that this journey probably was not easy for you guys, so I'm just proud of your bravery and just continue speaking truth." Ginger's cousin, Amy King, also left a positive comment under her original Instagram post. "Love that you are speaking your truth. I'll always support you and love you," she wrote. While commenting on Ginger's post about her People interview in January 2023, Amy hyped up the Matchbook Coffee collaborator, writing, "So proud of you. Freedom looks beautiful on you." And then, "Ginger, I'm so very proud of you," her Aunt Deanna Duggar wrote in the comment section of the Instagram post. "Taking a stand for the truth, you and Jeremy are in my prayers." Jeremy, who Ginger married in 2016, promoted her new book by sharing the YouTube video to his Instagram page on November 7th. While Jim Bob and Michelle haven't publicly commented on Ginger's book, a source exclusively told In Touch that they fear she'll reveal personal family information. "It's no secret that Jim Bob and Michelle would rather all their children keep family matters private," the insider said. "A tell-all book from one of their own isn't something they ever worried about until now." And that's the end of the In Touch article. So that brings us back to this past week and Ginger's interview with People magazine. Now, I want to go into that interview in depth and discuss it more, so we're going to do that in part 2. But before then, as I wrap up this episode, I want to go back to the pictures from this summer that Ginger posted, because something that she said in the interview with People magazine made me go back to these pictures. And they're the pictures of Jessa and Ben and Jana and Jennifer's visit to see Ginger out in California in the summer. At first glance, a few things are apparent. Just basic, right? Jessa and Jana and Ginger, they're all wearing pants. They all have their hair done, curled, etc. Jennifer is dressed similarly to what I wore, what they all wore as we were growing up. Very modest dress, very not form-fitting, and long straight hair. Now I'm not judging Jennifer in any way, shape, or form. Please hear me. I deeply care about Jennifer and the little girls who are growing up in this house and in all of the homes where the IBLP beliefs are taught. So please hear me on that. This is no condemnation of Jennifer. However, the difference in seeing Jessa, Jana, and Ginger's clothes and then Jennifer's clothes, still very much IBLP-centric modesty, is a stark reminder that things have not changed in the Duggar family as far as what happens in the big house and the way that Jim Bob and Michelle are raising the younger children. that are still minors under their roof. It hasn't changed. The other thing I noticed immediately was the way that, like, it's a really huge deal that Jennifer is in these pictures, that Jennifer made these trips and without a parent. It doesn't appear that Jim Bob and Rochelle were on this trip. However, she was with Jana, who is a stay-at-home daughter, just like I was. I was a stay-at-home daughter. And she was with Ben and Jessa. And all three of them are trusted by Jim Bob. So, in essence, she came to see Ginger on this trip with 3 chaperones. But it's still a huge deal that Jennifer came. So we're going to come back to that in the next episode. I also noticed some of the placement, the poses, as well as one specific person's expressions in those pictures. So go take a look at those pictures, and we're going to continue this discussion in part 2, which will drop in the next few days. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think of these pictures, and we will talk more about Ginger's new book coming. Don't forget to go and order it so that you will receive it when it comes out on the 31st of January. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for caring about truth. And please show your support for both Ginger and Jill in this time, as the pressures that they both face are enormous. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. Ciao.